So hello, welcome to stages 47 and 48 of the Robocop. It is new pack day, which means that we get the premium base, but I'm going to be doing that in the next issue. So today we are going to be doing 47 and 48. The parts counts don't look massive for 2 issues, but they do look quite involved. So let's, as always, have a little look. I've also got my piece, that little bit of an awkward finish on the last pack, so I've had it masking taped up so the bits don't fall out. And the parts that we get today will be, there we go. I'm not going to take them out of these packs until I actually need them. We have got A is that nut. It says nut, but this, oh, it is a nut. I thought it was a round thing. And then we have B, which is a hip bracket. We then have C, a left hip. And then we have got some UM screws, which are these ones. And we have got some CM screws. And then we have got lower half of support bar. I've got a feeling we're not going to be using this because Fan Home, in my opinion, have done this the sensible way. We are going to need a couple of pieces later on, so they've given us this now to put to one side, and in the later issue we'll get another one. So we are going to need the left hip, and we're going to need the nut and various other pieces. And I have a feeling my screwdriver head is too big, so I'm going to get a smaller piece on standby, if you guys don't mind. Actually, I'll get this screwdriver on standby because that seems to be the kind of screwdriver that works for just about everything. It's not my favourite screwdriver, but it does the jobs other screwdrivers can't do. So we need to get this side, and we have a little nut shaped hole in there, and you'll never guess what's going to happen next. Yep, that's it. We're going to drop that nut into there. Now the next stage, we're going to pop this little bracket over the top. You've got 2 small screw holes, and all this bracket serves to do is to stop that nut from falling out like that. It's very hard to see because it's black, but that will be secured in with 2 screws. Now there are only 3 screws, so that would suggest to me that one is a spare, and I think this is too big. These are very, very small screws. Right, so line up one of the bracket holes on the screw hole, and then, yeah, that's going to be way too small. So let's get my my screwdriver bits, and we'll find a really tiny one. Let's find a number 1. I think 1 means 1 millimeter, but who knows? Who knows with these sizing systems? Yep, that's a good one. Right, so I'm just going to pop that in enough to bite. Remember that these are metal screws, so one thing I've forgotten to do is oil the hole. I've already put the screw in that hole, so I'm not going to bother oiling it. So you know me, just a single drop. I feel that's all I need, especially with a screw this size. To give you an idea of the size of the screw, there it is against my finger. It might be one of the tiniest screws I've seen in a part work. Probably isn't, but you know me. Okay, and this second one can go in all the way. As I say, this little bracket, all it's going to do, tighten the first one up fully now. It's just going to serve to stop that nut from falling out. So if you lost all the screws or the bracket, I suppose you could super glue it in, because by the time the screw comes in from the other side, once it's connected, it's going to pull that screw in and it won't fall out even without that bracket. Okay, so next we want to go back to our bracket from last week. Now this is looking, oh I see why. Right, so we need to take our masking tape off, and as you can see we've got this loose screw there, and what's going to happen is this is going to go in. Now common sense says there's only one way to go in, and that's, it's got this little detailed side, and it matches the detail there. And we have, now be careful, we've got two little notches there. It's very hard to see because it's black, but in the middle is two notches, and you've got two little rails in there. So that those two little let's call them locating pegs, shall we? They need to fit inside that rail. So what's going to happen is once it's tightened, there will be movement, but it will restrict how far it can move it. Okay, so once we've done that, we tightened it up with the screw that we got in the previous issue, and I really don't know how far to tighten this, guys. I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. This is obviously going to have to move, and it's not wanting to move. Now that might be because my my hand isn't strong enough. It might be for another reason, but I'm going to fiddle with that later. Why fiddle about with it now? So we are going to need his left leg, okay, which is this one. That's the one without the gun. And what is going to happen is that is going to connect on there. So straight away I can see I've actually positioned that too far in, and that might be why it's not moving. So I'm going to loosen that. It might well be that I've not got it lined up with the rails properly. Once you place that over the top, it's actually quite difficult to see. So now here's a question for you. Why could they not have attached this to the leg and then attach that to this? Would that not be easier? However, doing it this way gives us a little bit of a check. Okay, I've done that fairly tight, but it is, see, now I think I've done that too much. Do you know what? I don't know what's going on here. It's not working as I want it to. That comes down. Okay. Right. Do you know what? I'm going to do it that way, guys. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to remove this. I'm going to skip to stage 4. I think that will be a lot simpler. So I'm going to take this big long screw from previous issues right out, along with that spring. Maybe I've put the spring in the wrong place. Maybe the spring should go in the middle. Right, so this piece is supposed to go on there like that. Okay, and that will be secured with just 2 cm screws. Now I'm having to trust the process here, because I've often said they give us more screw points than we generally need. So when we're bolting things together, perhaps it might need only 2 screws, and they might give us 4, or maybe they'll give us 5 or 6 when only 3 would do. I would say for this particular joint, 2 is the absolute minimum, and that is what they've actually given us. But you know, like I say, trust the process. To be fair to you, actually 1 is all it needs. that's pretty secure with one screw. So maybe I've read this piece wrong. Now that was a CM screw, and guess what, I haven't put any oil in. Okay, that's fine. Right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of assemble this backwards. I'm going to make sure. See, I think that's far too grippy. In fact, I think that spring, I actually now think that spring should have gone on the cog bit system there. I think that makes a little bit more sense. So let's do that, shall we? So this one goes in there, so this spring will push it down rather than pushing it up. Does that now make sense? Whether I misread the instructions or they've told us to go a silly way, I'm not 100% sure, but because it would make sense that it's trying to push those grippy parts away from each other, but we've screwed them in so tight that it's difficult. Oh, awful lot of screwing for this. Wishing I'd used my electric screwdriver now, guys. Okay. Right, let's use a bigger screwdriver. Make the job a little bit more efficient. Oh, that's working. That is working. Yeah, apart from the fact that the leg's quite wobbly at the back, at the bottom, sorry, but that's actually working. That I'm happy with. So we'll keep adjusting this as we see fit. To be absolutely honest with you, I'm not going to be fiddling around with this articulation once it's done, so I'm happy just to have that set like that. Now that is the end of that issue. Issue 48 deals with the pelvis part 3, so let's bring the parts through. As you can see, not that many parts. I can feel a bit of weight to it, so it's this metal parts. Now, I know some people complain about plastic and metal parts, and that's right, fine, you have the right to moan. I personally, I say, why give us plastic and metal parts when we just don't need them? We tend to use metal where strength is needed, and this is some kind of ball joint, so you can see that is going to need a bit of strength. That's metal, that's a housing, these two parts are plastic, and that's probably just to hold pieces in place. So this is the lower lumbar joint. Lumbar is back, so we're going to work on this bit perhaps. Then we have got, this doesn't look right to me. The lower, it does look right, it's because I had it upside down. So the lower lumbar joint support 1, that's metal. Then we have a plastic lower lumbar joint support 2. And then we have 2 friction blocks. We've seen this before, one slightly larger than the other. And we have EM and AM screws. and what we are going to do is we're going to take our metal lumber joint support, and we are going to place the larger of the two friction blocks, which I now can't pick up because it's gone face down. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh, no, nearly had it. So because it went that way round, I couldn't pick it up. So that goes in there like so. And then on top of that, our smaller friction block goes in place. Then we have our ball joint that goes in like that, poking out, and that's it. That's stage 3. Aha. So then we place over the top of that our part C, which I can't remember the name of, and I'm on a new page now, and that will go in like so. So as you can see, that's going to be for the back. There's not a lot of movement in there, but then again, you don't have a massive range of movement in your back anyway. So we're going to need 4 AM screws. Oh, and do you know what? I can just, it's a sponsor, I can just imagine now. Sorry, I probably, that was probably a bit naughty of me, wasn't it? Right, so these supports, they don't want to hold in on their own very well. It's not like there's a positive fit. We'll see what happens once I get a couple of screws in. And as always, I'm suggesting that the first couple of screws are going to be the hardest ones to get in. So I'm going to put 2 corner screws opposite each other, and then once we've got those 2 screws in, the rest should be a piece of doddle. Right, that's the first 2 in. So I say these should be easy now because the screw holes will be lined up for us, and because I don't think this is going to go flat, I'm just going to get the 4 screws in just so they're in, and then I'm going to work my way round. Should I have a bit of zoom in, do you think, guys? Would you like a closer look at what I'm doing? That's a bit better, isn't it? So we'll get the 4 screws in so that they're biting, and as you can see, it's quite hard to get that really tight. So what I'll do, I think it would help if I had the right screwdriver head, so let's use a smaller one. I think that's still going to be too big. No, that's fine. So we'll give that a few screws, then we'll give the next one a few screws, and then the next one, and then the next one. Now this might pull it all together, might not. Sorry guys, I'm off camera. I think that is going to go all together. So obviously 4 screws has a little bit more strength than I do, than my poor old fingers. There we go. But I would still recommend just doing a little bit on each screw. It just keeps that level. There's hardly any movement on that lumbar bar, but once we get the rest of it on, it's going to be a lot easier. Right, so last thing we need to do then, now I don't know if there is a difference. You'll see that that piece there is split down the middle. It looks like the rounded bit is going to be towards us. It will fit the wrong way, but looking at the magazine, it looks like the rounded bit is towards us. Now that may or may not make a difference in the future. I do not know. I would suspect it won't, because if we assemble it and the spine is on the wrong way round, that will swivel. So I suspect that there'll be no long-term consequences of getting this on the wrong way. The only other consequence that I can think of is the way that we position ourselves while we build it. I'm sorry, Mr. Shadow, I'm just doing a little bit of building. Okay, so right, so I'll just get myself in a position here where I feel I put that on the wrong side, because I had masking tape on this side, so it makes me think that this leg should have gone on the other way, but I can't see any issues with it. Right, that screws in as hard as we can get it. This is going into metal, guys, so don't forget it goes in nice and hard, and we have movement on the leg, and I think, yeah, there we go, we've got movement on this pelvis now that we've got something to purchase onto, so I'm happy with that. What we can do is adjust this screw a little bit to make that stiffer, but we do have, oh sorry guys, I'm off camera, so we do have that limited amount of movement, so that I say I'm happy with that. So yeah, that's good. So between this moving and the movement in the leg, that's perfect. And we have one spare part between the two issues, which is this rod. And I don't know if anyone's built the Terminator from Harshette. What you actually end up with is this rod coming out of the base, and the rod actually attaches to the model. So I think it looks like this is the way this is going to go. So I think there'll be a big rod coming out of the base that attaches to the back of him. So he's not going to go anywhere once he's built. Right guys, that is the end of those two issues. Nice couple of issues, a little bit technical, a little bit working on technical bits. Hasn't built it up an awful lot, which unfortunately is the way that part works go. Sometimes we just get big chunky bits and it just builds up really quickly. Sometimes we have to do the workings. Those workings, I'm rather happy with that. So next issue, work continues on the pelvis. Let me just double check the issues. So we will be doing the pelvis part 4, the pelvis part 5, and as a little bonus for you, we'll be doing the premium base. So take care guys, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.